and he included in his wording in the judgment that he wanted to make it possible for people to fight for human rights, so that it shouldn't be over expensive for people to try to do that. So when I took over the restaurant the first year, for example, like a jug of oil that we use to fill our fryers, I have 4 fryers in our kitchen. It takes a jug and a half to fill each fryer. The jugs used to cost us about $19 per jug, and now they're up to $62 per jug. So that's one example of the massive increase in food costs. It's not just a couple of dollars. It's more than tripled in price.
For Rebel News, I'm Tamara Ugolini in Belleville, Ontario at a local Wild Wings franchise, here with franchise owner Jackie Banas. Now, Jackie first came into the Rebel platform in the fall of last year, 2021, through our We Won't Ask campaign. At that special website, wewon'task.com, it was a portal where small businesses who decided that they won't ask people's personal medical information based on their vaccine status, where they could sign up and direct people to support their business in defiance of public health orders. So here in Ontario specifically, we saw the government impose vaccine mandates to dine into establishments and frequent many places throughout the food and entertainment sector. And specifically, the food and beverage industry has seen indiscriminate enforcement and restrictions and unprecedented shutdowns all throughout 2020 and 2021. Now, Jackie, maybe you can just give us a small recap of why you decided at that point, when the vaccine passport came into effect, to defy public health orders, and then what ensued thereafter with your local public health unit, that's Hastings, Prince Edward County Health Unit.
So it started with the vaccine passports being instituted, which we then, as a staff, our whole here, everyone said, no, we're not comfortable with that. We don't want to have to segregate. We don't want people's personal business. So we all decided we were just going to operate like normal and not ask. And the health department did have issue with that. So they did issue, over the course of a few months, $21,000 in fines, which, we planned on fighting. And so we just kept operating the way we were operating. And then they went to the liquor board, and because the health inspector realized that the fines weren't stopping us. So they went to the liquor board and had attempted to revoke our liquor license, which did result in a suspension. And during the suspension hearing, they did say to me that, yes, they agreed that they were only going to suspend it and not fully revoke it, but that they were going to keep it suspended for another 8 months because they wanted to set an example of us. And I specifically asked the lawyer, I was like, are you doing this only to set an example of us? And she said, yes, exactly that. So nobody else does what you're doing. And then after that, the suspension still didn't stop us. So they brought a court action against us, with their goal being a restraining order, forcing us to operate, either to shut down, go to takeout, or to actually ask for the vaccine passports. And so that was the step then that caused a whole sort of tidal wave of things happening. But I found legal advice, and I did find two lawyers, a mother-daughter team that would support me in that. And their idea was, we had a stance and we felt that human rights were being violated, that we shouldn't be asking for people's private medical information, we shouldn't be segregating, that people had a right to choose what was right for them. And at that time, what they were telling us is that the vaccine was protecting those that were afraid of getting the virus. So if you felt afraid of the virus and wanted to be protected, then getting the vaccine would protect you, and that was your right to do. And other people who weren't as afraid of the virus didn't need the vaccine. And so what difference did it make if somebody was sitting beside someone who didn't? Back then, when they first issued the mandate, it wasn't about transmission still happens whether you're vaccinated or not. Mm-hmm. But that was what they had first said. It was that the vaccine was to protect the people that were getting it. And
so the whole point of the mandate was, of course, to prevent transmission. And at the time, since then, we have better, more sound data showing that was never, in fact, the case.
Not at all.
But before we get into the legalese and the legalities that unfolded here, what was business like during those few months that you were defying public health orders and, at the framed as some sort of super spreader event?
Right. The people that had found out that we were part of that We Won't Ask campaign were so grateful. We were packed. We had 2 of our busiest months that we've had since I took over this franchise. The support was great. People were just happy to come. And it was funny because we'd have loads of people, like a father would bring his son. The father had to get vaccinated for work, but the son didn't want it, an adult son. And they could finally come and still eat together. Or a family, the wife got it because she was a nurse, but the husband didn't want it, and they couldn't eat together anymore. So they were happy to be able to come. So it was just a really jovial atmosphere. Everybody was like, good spirits, happy. We were packed from open till close. The whole day, every single day of the week.
Wow.
So yeah.
And now public health, of course, couldn't have this. And your staff and yourself, you didn't want to be doing the dirty work of public health. So this injunction happened where they wanted to mandate you shut down or you comply with the orders. So what happened there? What was the judge's opinion and ruling?
So my lawyers decided that what they thought might be the best defense was to bring our own offense and have a constitutional challenge as part of what we brought forward. So we got a win with the judge. That the judge did agree that he would allow the constitutional challenge action as part of our defense, so he would take that into consideration. The downside was that now there were 2 actions on the table. Both would have their own legal costs involved with that. Not only my own lawyer had extra work to do for 2 actions, one that they were responding to and one they were bringing of their own, but at the end, if I lost both actions, then there's double legal costs that I'm responsible to pay for the other side's legal costs as well.
Mm-hmm. But there was another small win in that regard too, from what I understand, and set a decent enough precedent for any future constitutional filings. So perhaps you can enlighten us on what that was.
Yeah, the way the law works is that there are laws that, need to be followed, but then the other side of the law is precedent, that sometimes a judge will rule one way or the other based on facts, and those precedents can also be used in the future in court cases. And so the judge did say in the action against us, he issued the restraining order because he did say that a law is a law, which the mandate had been written into the law according to him. And so he said, no, I am going to issue the restraining order. And then he awarded the other side their legal costs for that. But then with respect to the constitutional challenge, while in my opinion, he wasn't comfortable ruling at that time, so he did still rule against me because that was a big issue for the whole world if he was the first one to rule that these violate human rights, which I just don't think he was in a position of comfort to do so. So he sort of sidestepped the issue and ruled against me. But then to set precedent for that specific situation, he did say, I will be awarding costs for the other side because that's the way the law works, but I was going to set costs at the absolute minimum. So I was only awarded $5,000 against me that I had to pay for the other side, even though they probably would have had way more legal costs than that. I didn't have to pay all of those legal costs. I only had to come up with the $5,000. And he included in his wording in the judgment that he wanted to make it possible for people to fight for human rights, so that it shouldn't be over expensive for people to try to do that.
Mm-hmm. So where does that put you today with Wild Wings, the franchise, and the ever increasing cost of living, cost of food? What's the current state of affairs here financially and economically for you as a small business owner?
So financially, we are really in the hole. The legal costs put us way back, but also the being closed on and off during parts of COVID. Our sales were not great during the 2 years of COVID, as well as because of the liquor license suspension that affected our sales as well. So we're down over $100,000, I'd say, this year, and that's not something I can ever come back from. I don't make that much profit in a year plus doubled to make the profit I would need next year to carry the business and to cover this year's hole. So we have decided to sell so that we don't keep digging ourselves into a deeper hole.
So regardless, you made it through COVID narrative, but taking a stand against some of these principled things that you and your staff agreed you were not comfortable imposing has, regardless, still led to the ultimate unfortunate, not necessarily closure of the business, but for you personally to have to wash your hands and pass that on to someone else. Just in closing, before we wrap up here, Jackie, what have you noticed in terms of the food prices and the prices to operate this business as well, compared to 2019, 2020, 2021, and now into this year, 2022?
So when I took over the restaurant the first year, for example, like a jug of oil that we use to fill our fryers, I have 4 fryers in our kitchen. It takes a jug and a half to fill each fryer. The jugs used to cost us about $19 per jug, and now they're up to $62 per jug. So that's one example of the massive increase in food costs. It's not just a couple of dollars. It's more than tripled in price. And that's just one of the items. The wings are more, the fries are more, the sauces are more. Everything's gone up. The delivery costs, it used to be $7 to have our food delivered here, and now it's $18.95 every delivery. Wow. So again, that's more than double. It's almost triple. So everything's gone up triple. And so the cost of everything for everyone in the world right now is gone skyrocketing.
And as we see now, another business being sold, and obviously out of your hands now, but I'm sure many of our viewers would thank you for taking the stand against that segregation that we have seen now unfolding in real time to have not been based in evidence or science, no rationale to have that imposed onto the population at large. So thank you, Jackie, for taking a stance against that and for joining me to discuss. I hope that everything goes well here with Wild Wings as you go forward with the sale, and that financially you can recover eventually from the last 2 years of absolute insanity.
Thank you.
Yeah. For Rebel News in Belleville, Ontario, I'm Tamara Ugolini. There is a fun and interactive way for our viewers at home to help us with the increasing costs of running an independent, not government-funded media company, and that's simply by purchasing our swag. We feature new designs all of the time at rebelnewsstore.com, and your order always qualifies for free global shipping. But right now, you can buy 2 unisex t-shirts and get the third one free by using code SUMMER. Head on over to rebelnewsstore.com and check out our deals and our new designs there today.